To introduce you to a very special person who you all know, and I know that you all love, and I love her more than I could ever begin to tell. And I've learned more from her and her journey with me than I am sure I've ever given back to her. This particular national sales director started her business in 1986, and she debuted as a director in '89. She picked up her very first Cadillac when she was 26 years old, and she has driven pink every day thereafter. 21 years of pink Cadillacs. The last two have been pink Escalade Cadillacs. 450,000, 550,000 unit clubs, and of course, crowning glory in 19 you have 1099. What year were you number one? I don't even remember what year I was number one. What year were you number one? 1 year, some time ago, she was number one in our division. 2002, thank you. She debuted in 2004 as a national sales director, one of my proudest moments, and she has been a company Miss Go Give. Court of Sales, Court of Sharing. She's been married for 25 years to Larry. To know him is to love him. And they have beautiful, beautiful children. Jake, who's 19, a sophomore in college, and Allie, who's 17, who's graduating from high school. And she does have a third one listed. She does have a third child. His name is Rocky. He's a little bulldog. And you know what happens, I've noticed? When children leave the homes, dogs replace the children. As evidenced in Lulu running around our retreat. It's amazing what happens. He's a grand dog. She's a grand dog. And he's a grand dog to Dawn. And before she speaks, we'd like you to see, because we realize that many of you are so new that you don't remember when we were in your seats. You don't know that we really were Mary Kay beauty consultants once. We really did carry those cases to Mary Kay parties and beauty shows. And we really did have no's, and we really did have those upward climbs. And some climbed to the top and were number one and crowned. So would you take a minute and just watch down memory lane, Dawn Otten Sweeney. She was gorgeous that night and delivered a number one speech to beat the band. Will you please bring up National Sales Director, Diamond Circle National Sales Director, Dawn Otten Sweeney! 30 minutes. 30? Okay. Great. When Debbie says that she's learned more from me than I could have learned, I have learned from her that that is just a flat-out lie. Debbie and Kathy have been my Mary Kay mentor since I started, and am I forever grateful that Debbie was out with Nancy Murata that day in the mall in Ohio, teaching Nancy how to talk to people she didn't know. I'm so grateful that even though Nancy was scared to talk to people and didn't want to do it, Debbie made her do it. She didn't enable her. She didn't care if she was comfortable or not. And I'm so grateful that Nancy continued to call me after I had that facial to invite me to events, because my retail schedule continued to change. And I'm eternally grateful. You look back and you can see how smart God is. He knew exactly that the job I took out of college when I was in Cleveland, that's why I was in Cleveland, to meet Debbie Moore. It wasn't the job that I got out of business school that my parents were so proud that I got, and just extremely not as excited when I quit that to sell lipstick with Mary Kay 9 months later. But I'm so grateful. I think when you look back, you can see things more clearly, can't you? But it's when you're in them that we have to manage ourselves emotionally so that we have the privilege of being able to look back, like you just heard Lynn do, and say, gosh, I'm glad I did those skincare classes. Gosh, I'm glad that when that person canceled or changed her mind, I didn't let her steal my dream. I continued on. I think after 24 years in Mary Kay, money management, and poor emotional management are the top two reasons people get out of Mary Kay. And that's sad to me, because those are both things you can learn to do. If you came into Mary Kay and you were a good money manager, chances are that you manage your Mary Kay money well. If you were like me, if I had checks in my checkbook and plastic in my wallet, I could spend. When you manage a Mary Kay business like that, you usually embezzle your way out of the business a couple of times until you learn that this doesn't work so well to have a Visa bill and no inventory. If you come into this business managing yourself well emotionally, then you will manage yourself well emotionally in Mary Kay. If you have not learned that prior to coming into Mary Kay, you're going to learn it here, or you're going to get out of the business or just be a mess the whole time you're in it. Really. You know, who Phyllis was sharing, the advice of Rena Tarbett not to be a social worker. We can provide an environment for people to grow emotionally, but they have to make that choice. We can't do it for them. When you're a social worker, it's the responsibility of the social worker or the counselor, isn't it? They're being paid to do that. That's their job. Our job is not to change someone. We're not being paid to change them. We're being paid to create an environment for women to grow up, for women to be transformed, for God to be able to do a work in them, and Mary Kay is just the wheel that God puts us on. I really believe that He looked around and said, this one, right here, she's gone to church her whole life and she's still not getting this. And so I'm going to put her into Mary Kay so I can see women walking out my word. Women living my word Monday through Saturday, not just hearing it on Sunday and living very differently Monday through Saturday. I believe that happens to probably a lot of us. It is a transformation process, isn't it? But we have to avail ourselves to that. So know that those are two things that you can help yourself get fixed with. And you will get paid versus paying someone to fix you. This is the best self-improvement course. Phyllis said that too. In the world. I am a totally different person now than I was when I started Mary Kay 24 years ago. Thank goodness. I wasn't a bad person then, but I am a far more confident woman that has now produced a much more confident daughter than I ever would have without Mary Kay. I mean, my daughter does not get involved in the dramas that girls get involved in because she's not seen her mother get involved in dramas. If girls see their moms in dramas and gossiping on the phone and with their friends and in life, they do exactly the same thing. I mean, I've heard my daughter call up, we joke about it, but she like breaks up with girlfriends. She'll call them up and just say, I'm not doing this anymore. You're manipulating people. I'm not doing passive aggressive. You are lying. And so I'm coming over to get my clothes and I'm going to be nice to you in school, but we are not friends. And so me and my husband joke, we go, oh, she just broke up with someone. She goes and gets all her clothes and jewelry, and she's done. But you guys, I never would have done that in high school. Never. You're just like afraid of confrontation, and you don't really say what you mean, and things are so unhealthy. Because in Mary Kay, she's seen this modeled. She's seen me on the phone in between her volleyball tournaments, cheering women on and encouraging them. That is good, healthy communication. Encouraging, emotional management. Some of these girls, when the littlest thing happens, they just allow their whole life to spiral out of control. Or their life revolves around a boy. And Allie's seen, because of who I've become in Mary Kay, because of what's been modeled to me, that the number one person that she needs to impress is God. That's it. And so, if he's happy with her, then it doesn't matter what anyone else, including her parents, think. Really, that's dangerous to go there. But that's the truth. So, managing yourself emotionally, I'm going to give you some tips on that, but it's critical. But it's a lifetime process. Because at all different seasons of our life, who could have, that year that I was number one, my son had open heart surgery at the last month of that seminar year. How do you prepare for something that we had done it with a 3-month-old, but we had never done it with an 11-year-old. That the day before was saying, Mom, I'm scared, I could die. What prepares you for that? God's Word prepares you for it. But, we're all going to walk through stuff we've never walked through before. The season that Phyllis is at, is a season that no parent ever wants to have to walk through. But God knew, and He prepares, and He can take care of that. But we're always going to be in different seasons. When people, say, well, it's tough now. Some are tougher than others, but they're all challenging, aren't they? Because it's a fallen world. So just knowing that going in, that this is something that you have to figure out how to keep yourself straight, and doing what you need to do so that you can have what this business offers. When you want it bad enough, like Karen was talking about last night, you're going to figure out how, and you're going to figure out when. You will. The how-tos, Karen shared so wisely that you do need to be founded in the skills of this business. The booking, coaching, selling, pre-profiling, getting your leads, closing the class, doing the 4-point recruiting plan. Which, little side note, it's making me really uncomfortable when I go to events and ask consultants to pop up and share the 4-point recruiting plan and they have no clue what I'm talking about. Mary Kay taught us to sell and recruit together, not separately. And some of you have come into Mary Kay where recruiting's all done through events. And that should be the and then some. That is not the basis of how you want to build your business. Doing interviews, overcoming objections, explaining inventory options, those are all skills. And those are things that your nationals have equipped you with. Over there are CDs that teach you, how to book, coach, sell, and recruit. Because when you're doing consistent effort, it is impossible for you guys all to leave here and be the leaders you're supposed to be with what you just heard at this retreat. You have to go out there and do a Power Start Plus and be listening to CDs as you go along. Remember Karen was saying when you start to track your numbers, you're going to see holes. So if that hole is getting leads, you have to be listening to a CD and figuring out, okay, how am I going to fill that gap to get leads at my classes? Or if the gap is getting enough leads to get the bookings, how do I fill that? Or if your sales are lower than you'd like them to be, how can you increase that? Interviewing, if you're interviewing more than 5 to get 1, then interviewing skills or overcoming objection skills. Those things, and if you don't track them, you're not going to know what to fix. Those skill things are things that you can learn on CD, and that's why we equip you with those. None of us are in the CD business. So if you want those words from us, you want to get them while you're here, because you can't call us to order them. None of us really want to be in the CD business, but we take seriously that we're legacy leaders, and we have to pass on these core skills, because unless you have solid consultant skills, you can't pass them on to anyone. And that's not to say wait to be a sales director until you have all your core skills, because it's going to take 12 months of power starts, consecutive power starts, to own booking, coaching, selling, recruiting, and the interviewing process. To own it. Like owning it so you can pass it on. But what I have found in this day and age in Mary Kay is that you guys have too many ideas. Far too many ideas. When we grew up in Mary Kay, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have UnitNet. We had a newsletter that came to us once a month from our director in the mail. We had Applause magazine, you had your weekly success meeting, and once in a while you would talk to your director in between, but very infrequently, because we didn't have cell phones. Our telephones were attached to walls on cords that were curly. You could only get so far from them, and it was really expensive to make long-distance phone calls. So you made them after 9 o'clock at night, for sure, or on weekends. So that was the only communication we had. And you guys, looking back, that was a blessing. Because once I learned how to book a class, I'm not even going to ask. Some people will say they don't know how to book. They need help with booking. But if I ask you if you've ever booked a class, yes. Were you ever given a perfect start, power start dialogue from your director and in your consultant's guide? Yes. You know how to book. You haven't done it enough that you own it. You've switched techniques so many times that you don't own it. Okay? So this area, the CDs that you're going to get over there, we're not saying that it's just this one dialogue that you have to have, because I don't want you to leave this retreat and feel like it's the one idea that you need. You need to know how to book appointments from people you do know and people that you don't know. And once you have that dialogue set, you don't need any more. So if someone comes up here and tells me they booked 5,000 skincare classes, I don't have to allow that in, because I've already booked enough skincare classes to build 15 trip units, $2 million units in a national area. I don't need any more. So I can move on to other stuff. So, that's what those resources are for. And there's a limited amount of all of them. So whoever wants them, please get those, because you need to be doing, when you leave here, activity, listening. Activity, listening. Managing yourself emotionally. A couple things that are critical is, first, you have to have a goal. And Karen was talking about last night a dream. A dream could be a big, long term, but I think everyone, and Karen shared this with us, this formula with us at seminar, everyone needs a dream that's at least in a 12-month time period. Because some dreams are 5 years, 10 years out, aren't they? And so it's really easy to procrastinate on a dream. It's really easy to allow yourself to have emotional come-aparts, but what I found is that when I had to pay an electric bill, I didn't have a lot of time to have a come-apart because I had to book another skincare class because the bill was due. I mean, really, when all the choices are removed, you start to manage yourself a lot differently, don't you? So you have to have time to have come-aparts, because having a come-apart takes time. It does. And it's exhausting on the other side of it. Just going, and then you have to, then you think about quitting, and then if you're going to quit, how are you going to tell your director and your recruiter, and then what are you going to do with your, it's exhausting, and it takes time. So if your dream is longer term, you need a 12-month dream, and you need a price tag on it. Because what I have found is that a red jacket doesn't have a dollar amount attached to it. Directorship doesn't have a dollar amount attached to it. And sometimes that's why I think we can get into the framework of thinking that we're social workers, because we're not running it like a business. You guys, what business doesn't have a financial goal? All businesses have a CFO or a CEO, someone who's saying, bottom line, this is how much retail's got to come in. This is the dollar amount that's got to come in, a retail goal. If there's no dollar amount attached to it, it is social work, or it's teaching, or it's law, or it's medicine. But all of those have business managers, don't they? Because you're only going to do social work for so long if no one's paying the bills and keeping the lights on. You're only going to practice law so long if someone is not paying the bills and keeping the lights on. You're the business manager. So even though you're out there being the marketing director and you're doing this as a ministry, you're the business manager too. So put the business manager hat on and pick a dream. Before you leave here, in the next 12 months, what do you want to pay for? Is it a trip? Is it a car paid off? Or is it a car? Is it a college education for a year? Is it a trip to Disney? Pick a dream that will make you do it even when you don't want to do it. What is that? And how much does it cost? You guys, I want you to let your national and your director know. What is that dream and what does it cost? By the time your head hits the pillow Sunday night, what is your dream and what is the dollar amount on it? So let's just say the dollar amount's $12,000 for the year. So you take the $12,000, divide it by 12 for the 12 months of the year. That's how much you have to make a month. You have to profit a month to fund that dream. Then you take that amount and you divide it by 0.4. Because when you do a 60-40 split, that's then going to tell you what you have to retail to be able to keep that amount of profit. Do I have everyone still? And then that number you divide by 4 for the 4 weeks out of the month. So you have an amount that you have to retail a week, so at the end of the year you have that $12,000 profit. You guys, this formula is helpful because then you can set your retail sales goal. Versus just saying, okay, well, I'm going to sell 350 to 400 to be a Sapphire Star. Well, maybe your dream needs more money than that. And maybe you have some bills that you need to pay, too. And you're going to hear money management. So in money management, you need to plan ahead for events, for PCP, for all those kind of things, those costs in your business. So really what you sell a week funds your dream, it funds bills that need to be paid, and it funds the cost of running your business. Does that make sense? Can you see a lot of you aren't even running a business. You're just randomly picking these retail sales goals because of the prize. You guys, that's not a business. So it's kind of hard to emotionally manage yourself in your business when you don't even have a business to emotionally manage yourself around. And be careful about that word hobby level. Because hobbies cost money. and you do them when it's convenient. So, that... People think, okay, hobby level or, part-time is 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week. You guys, you don't do this hobby level. Even if you're doing this part-time, 2 hours a month, you still want to make money with it, don't you? You do. It's a business. And there's a ton of people out there that need to make money with this right now. So you need to make money, so you're talking to them about making money. So you have to have that goal. In addition to your car and coming to Houston, you have to have the dream, the cost of the dream in front of you. And then the second thing is you have to track your way to that dream. Because if you have the dream first, it's a lot easier for you to manage yourself emotionally to get back up. Because then it's not about that person who says no. It doesn't matter what this person says. You're looking for the 24 to say yes for the directorship for Houston, because that $1,000 bonus is going to help fund the dream. That may fund the whole dream. It may be a spring break deposit or vacation. You have to have a way to track it. Those folders are great. Pictures. You need something visually to keep you on track. That helps you emotionally. You can't just leave an event like this and then just think that you're going to be able to keep in your mind's eye. Without vision, people perish. You have to have a visual of, what is that dream? What does it look like? People call it a goal poster. It may just be a picture of one thing. Audially, you need to listen to Mary Kay CDs daily. How many people listen to Mary Kay CDs daily? It should be 100%. That was something Mary Kay taught us at New Consultant Orientation, a Mary Kay CD every single day. Physically, you need to be at your Mary Kay meeting every week. Being in the environment, physically, weekly, and then 4 events a year. Fall retreat. You guys are leaders, so you have an additional retreat. But you guys, that makes sense. Leaders need more filling up because you're putting more out. Your consultants do a January event, and then as leaders, we do Houston. So as leaders, we have 2 additional events. We have Charlotte, and we have our leadership conference, in addition to the consultants 4 events a year. A January, a career conference, a seminar, and a fall retreat. But you guys, 6 events a year is only every other month. Once every 8 weeks as a leader, believe me, you need to be filled back up. And you need to be sharpened, because in 8 weeks, you can only get so far off track on your own. In 12 weeks, seriously, you could be in a whole different neighborhood. You can be so far off track, you've forgotten what you're even doing. True? So when people, and also too, just accepting that this is the deal. This is a rule for success in this business. You torture yourself emotionally like, can I afford to go to seminar? Is it convenient for my family to go to seminar? You guys, I never thought of those thoughts. Debbie told me these are the things you go to, and you just go to it. So when I get ready to come to Charlotte or I get ready to go to Houston, is this convenient for me? Does this work around vacations? I've scheduled vacations around these events. For the whole year. They're coming up. When people come up to seminar and say they can't afford it, it's like, oh, you just wake up one morning and go, oh my gosh, Dallas, it's tomorrow. I need $700. You plan for it. You create your stress by your lack of planning and your choices. So those 4 events a year, physically putting yourself with other people to sharpen. At this retreat, we're talking to you like your sales directors. I hope you leave here sharpened. I hope you leave here confirmed, but I also hope you leave here convicted. Because I don't know about you, but when I go to church, I want to be changed when I leave. I don't want them to tell me I'm great and everything is wonderful and just leave saying everything's perfect, because it's not. I know it's not. I know I'm not perfect. I know my life's not perfect. I know I can be better. So you don't figure that out unless you're convicted. I want you guys convicted. I want you sharpened. The third thing, when you get off track. So 1, you have to have a financial goal. 2, you have to have a way to track it. 3, when you get off track in your head, let me give you some tips. One of my CDs back there is emotional management, the whole thing. Like one of the series back there is emotional management for 45 minutes. The next one is working your business like a job, which my husband did. Because you guys, and that's a question I ask myself. If I was employed by someone, would I go to work today? You need to create parameters for yourself, just like you allow a boss to do for you. You guys, I see women sacrifice time with their kids, their health, their financial security in the future for an employer, and they're unwilling to do it for their Mary Kay business. That's insanity. Or their husband's doing the same thing. He's missing out on raising the kids. He's missing out on taking care of his health because his wife isn't building her Mary Kay business how she's gifted and called to. That's just as serious of an issue. So when you get off track, I want you to listen to your words that you're saying to yourself. The words that you're saying to yourself. Are you saying, I don't have time, I can't, this hasn't worked before, but, whatever you put after but is a huge problem, or because? Because what you put after because or but are usually excuses, and excuses are dressed up lies to yourself. Those statements, I don't have time, I can't, those are all reactive versus proactive words. When you say, I don't have time, you're saying, I'm just a victim. I don't have time. I can't do anything about this. Hello, you guys. You created your schedule. You created it. And you can say, well, but it's my husband's job or my job. You have those jobs because of how you're choosing to invest your time in your Mary Kay business. If you invested more time proficiently, efficiently, effectively in your Mary Kay business, you wouldn't have to have that other job, or your husband wouldn't have to work those hours. It's by choice. All of us are living how we are right now, how we're using our time, by our choice, right? So when you say, I can't afford it, you can afford it. There's nothing that you can't afford once you have a showcase. You're unwilling to work for it is proactive. I can't afford it is saying, I'm just a victim. I can't do anything about it. I don't have the time. Whenever I tell myself that, I go, it's my schedule. I picked this. So I need to change something, do something different to get something different. But you guys, in our society, our media is blasting reactive victim words to us. People are getting numb to it. Depending on what station you listen to, it's someone else's fault. It's this station's fault. It's that station's fault. It's the president's fault. It's the economy's fault. It's this industry's fault. It's Wall Street's fault. It's Europe's fault. It's Mexico's fault. It's someone's fault, isn't it? No personal responsibility whatsoever. That's a challenge for us in this season of Mary Kay. Because you cannot be successful in this business as an entrepreneur being reactive. So I want you guys to listen to your words and catch each other. If you hear your buddy saying, I can't, because, but, something didn't work before, when you say it didn't work before, it worked like this before, so it's going to be the same going forward, you guys, what's that saying? God changes stuff. Suddenly, like that. And when any of you came in, none of you had done a skincare class, and none of you had 3 recruits. People have earned cars. You didn't have 14 people, and all of a sudden you did. If you based the future on what you had done, you would not be where you're at right now in your Mary Kay business. So why would you do that from this point forward? That's reactive. That's not proactive. Does that make sense? So you look at your words. You can say, I choose not to, not that I can't. Okay? How do you change your words to yourself? By reading daily. When I started my Mary Kay business, Debbie Moore, when she sat down at my new consultant orientation, she said, Mary Kay tells us to read something positive every day, and Mary Kay recommends the Bible. And that may be politically incorrect in a lot of circles now. But you know what? This company is based on a Christian heritage. And I'm grateful that I saw women model out. What does it look like? What does your life look like when you read God's Word every day? If you read God's Word and it doesn't make sense to you, you may need a different version of it. If you're reading Old King James and you're starting in Genesis and by Leviticus, you're like, what the heck is going on here? It's like Lynn listening to Sydney in a different language. Kathy Halou said, go get a Life Application Bible. I still have that Life Application Bible with all the explanations on the bottom. I heard Wayne Cadero, who's one of my favorite pastors, speaker, teachers, and he was sharing to a graduating class. He said, does any one of you, you guys are all, excited to go impact the world for God. You're equipped, you're educated. Does anyone know what's going to happen later today? Does anyone know what's going to happen later this week? Does anyone know what's going to happen next year? Someone does, though. God does. He knows what's going to happen later today, next week, and next year. And he wants to tell you. He's not sitting up there going, you know what? I just want her confused and frustrated. I want this to be as difficult on her as it possibly can. I don't think that lines up with what we heard last night about abundance and being fruitful. Confusion and frustration and abundance and fruitful don't really go together for me. So God will tell you through His Word. And so you'll be reading His Word, and all of a sudden something stands out. Highlight it. Because I guarantee you're going to be able to look back, and you're going to be in a conversation, or you're going to be in a situation and go, that's what he meant. I needed this information to give to this person or for myself so that I could make a wise choice here, so I could encourage here, so I could take advantage of opportunity here. People miss out on opportunity. They don't know how to manage themselves because they're trying to do it themselves. And I did. The first half of my Mary Kay business, I was a master of the universe. And I did a pretty good job with it. Won trips and mastered the whole universe. It's stressful, though. It's really stressful. It is so much easier, the second half of my business, really letting God be in the driver's seat. And whenever I inch over and start to, the passenger seat, and I'm, right next to him, and then I'm trying to take the wheel a little bit, he's in His Word, he's just like, stop it. Seriously. It is so much easier being the passenger there. And you guys, there's a huge difference between Jesus being your Savior and Him being your Lord. Huge difference. So reading the Bible every day, He knows what's going to happen. In that emotional management series, the third CD is the transforming power of God's Word. It's a sermon that I did, and it shares my testimony. And we're going to give everyone, because some of you, this is your first Mary Kay event. And I know when I came to my first Mary Kay event, I came from the University of Michigan Business School. There was no God, family, career spoken to me at the University of Michigan Business School. It was your career, your career, your career, and if you could fit your family and your faith around it, good for you. As my first child left for college this year, I drove to my training center a couple weeks ago, and with tears running down my face. I just wear waterproof all the time now. Tears running down my face, just grateful that someone had offered me this Mary Kay opportunity. That I had no regrets. That I got to be the mom that I wanted to be while building a tremendous business that's now paying for him to graduate from college debt-free. As long as he goes to study and not party, debt-free. So grateful for that. If you believe that you can't have the dreams that God's given you in your heart, and be an awesome mom and wife at the same time, then you're believing a lie from the pit of hell. And Satan wants you to believe that because he doesn't want you to pursue your Mary Kay business because he knows the kingdom impact that you can have. But the first Mary Kay event I went to, I had not seen women mix up this life and God's Word all at the same time. Where I grew up, you keep your religion to yourself. It's personal, and it's separate from your work and really your everyday life. So what we have for everyone, it's a little Mary Kay tract. Those who are Christ followers know what a tract is. It just is a track from you to God through Jesus. But one of the directors that I do a director's Bible study with in Michigan, Tina Francis, her husband's a pastor, and he made these up for our Michigan Fall Retreat. You can print these off on my UnitNet site, and it says About Dawn. There's a little section, and it says, how do you live with God first? You can print these off and have these with you at all your facials and classes, pop them in customer bags, but it says Mary Kay taught us, God first, family second, career third. But how? And it just walks you through how. So that might be a handy resource for you, but really the ultimate power to manage yourself emotionally is going to come from giving up control to God. ultimately. I mean, I can tell you all these tips of managing your mind. I can go through lots of psychobabble. And I was a psychology minor, so I can do lots of that. But the ultimate emotional control comes when you allow God to control your emotions, and your trust is totally rooted in Him. Listen to your words when you get off track. Discipline yourself to read. Some people will say, well, I'm not a reader. You guys, it's like saying I'm not an exerciser. Because I'm not. I don't love exercising, but I exercise because I know that I need to for my health. My husband has exercised every day since he was 15 years old. Always. He's disciplined to do that. If you're not disciplined to read, put it in your schedule. Just like if you are going to exercise, you have to put it in your schedule. I can go through a whole day in exercise clothes and still not have exercised. Easily. My husband will get home and I'm in my exercise clothes still. So you discipline yourself to read. And there's so much great stuff out there. Joyce Meyer's Battlefield of the Mind, her approval addiction book, I think every single woman in Mary Kay should read. It should be mandatory. When people are giving you advice that is unsettling to you, or they change their mind and you kind of feel like a little bit of your dream is getting sucked away, I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. This is something my husband shared with us at our fall retreat. Ask yourself, does that person have a faith worth considering? Do they have a lifestyle worth imitating? And do they have a message worth following? So do they have a faith worth considering, a lifestyle worth imitating, and a message worth following? If not, thanks for sharing. You do not allow their words or their choices to take you off track from your dreams. The third, I think it's super important that you define life and crisis. I mean, life is death by aging, not quick, sudden, untimely death. It is having a baby, it's having a senior, it's getting married, it's building a house, it's having a grandchild. Those are life, aren't they? Those things, you don't change your Mary Kay, how you do your business around. You may change the when, but you don't change your goals or your time frames. Because if you treat your business like that and do it around life, then you have the flexibility of your business, like Phyllis was talking about. When you hit crisis, your business takes care of you. So many people I see, when life hits, they put themselves in a win-lose situation. They don't have enough people on their team to make the income or the production they need because they haven't built their business around life. So when crisis hits, they have no cushion. They're not in a win-win situation. So defining the difference between life and crisis. A bad decision for the right reasons is still a bad decision. When I was at the leadership summit I was talking about that Karen and I were at the same time, Jim Collins, who wrote the book From Good to Great, and his next book is When the Great Fall, he talks about when the Great Fall, it's not like overnight, like I just lost my car, or I'm just not a director, or it's like disease. It's in your body, and then all of a sudden people get this diagnosis, and you're like, what's going on? Like, I had no idea. They seem totally healthy. On the outside, it seems fine, but it's been happening for a long time inside. It's the same thing. It's a process of bad decisions, even for the right reasons, are still bad decisions. He also said something. He said, the culture of the disciplined is not a focus on a new to-do list. So when you leave here, it's not necessarily about a new to-do list and adding more onto your list. It may be about what is on your not to-do list. You guys, that was a new thought to me. Of thinking about what I should not be doing or don't need to do, what I can delegate out, what someone else can do, versus just how many times you want to get more out of your business, but you're just adding more onto your already busy, crazy life. You guys, that's unrealistic. You've set yourself up for a come apart, for an emotional breakdown. You can only withstand that for so long. Something has to give, doesn't it? So start thinking about what you, since then I'm like, what don't I have to do? I'm adding someone else on to help me out in life when I get home, because it'll become clear. If you ask God, He'll make it clear to you what you don't need to do. Okay, so to help yourself manage yourself emotionally, first off, you start today with the end of the retreat in mind, okay? Knowing that when you leave here tomorrow, that life's going to get crazy. A new dream's planted, and that seed hasn't had time to take root. There's a thing called seed, time, and harvest. And Satan wants to rip the seed up through adversity, frustration, disappointment, as quick as possible. So what I used to think is that, okay, well, gosh, things are getting crazy, so that must mean I need to stop. I read God wrong. I'm heading in the right direction. No. When things start to get crazy, I go, okay, thank you. That's confirmation I'm on the right track. I am going to walk this out because it takes time for the root. And you guys, a big oak tree needs bigger, deeper roots than a little blade of grass. You guys, we want to be big oak trees, fruitful. So expect that there's going to be adversity. Expect it. Know it. Just say, okay, great. I wouldn't say bring it on because I don't want to tempt Satan. We don't need any more adversity than we have. So I used to say that. I do not say that anymore. But it is confirmation that I've headed in the right direction. But when you leave here, 72 hours from when you leave this retreat, so that will be, some of you have 10-hour drives or travels across the country. So 72 hours in that travel time, you need to make good use of that. You may need to make use of time that you have here to make phone calls, to bookings, interviews. Because if you don't do something dramatically different within 72 hours of being here, next year at this time, you're going to be in exactly the same place. You're going to miss out on Houston. You may even miss out on, in 3 years, we go to possibly, and it's probably pretty probable, because by the time they tell the nationals, it's usually a sealed deal because we tell everyone as soon as we hear anything. So they've shared with us that on the 50th anniversary of the company, the nationals and directors are going to do an overlap trip. Beijing, China. You guys, 3 years. I like 3 years because it's short enough that you can't procrastinate. If you're sitting in these seats as a red jacket and you want to be a top director, 3 years is pace. You can definitely do that. 42 faces a month for 24 months is 1,000 faces. Out of 1,000 faces, you can find 100 to 200 recruits, can't you? Can you imagine what your 13% check would be on 100 to 200 people if they're all your own? Any of you in this room could do that. That would set you up to go to Beijing as a red jacket, as a top director. Any director in this room could do the same thing, and that's going to put you as a top director, $1 million director, or national sales director. I went from one director, Lynn was one, to 23 directors in 22 months when we went into national qualifications. You guys, that's how God works suddenly. So where are you going to be 3 years from now? Are you going to be with us in Beijing? That's a moment in time. That's the 50th anniversary. Mary Kay does celebrations huge. That's going to be gigantic. You don't want to miss that. When Mary Kay has milestone things like $1,000 and you get to come to Houston when you're not a director, you don't want to miss that. In my career, follow the food. Do not miss a food event. And do not miss a special event the company's doing. If you just focus on those things, you will go right to the top, I guarantee you. So in 72 hours, what are you going to do different? So that would put us at what? What's 72 hours from Saturday at 12:30? Tuesday at 12:30? How many appointments are going to be on your date book? That dream, if you know what you have to do in retail, then you can figure out strategize the faces, can't you? You can strategize the number of interviews. So, what in 72 hours, what's going to be different? You have a price tag on your dream. You have a strategy of new faces and interviews and your retail sales goal. You make a commitment that you're going to break through your quitting points, the things that have held you back in the past. And, know that when you leave here, if you leave with a grateful heart and saying to yourself, I get to find 42 faces to put the products on in October. I get to find 42 women to share this incredible product with a month for the next 24 months. That is a lot different attitude than I have to. I get to is out of gratitude. I have to is out of obligation. And God judges our hearts. And I have to believe that your results are different when you're in a I get to versus I have to. Because you guys, there are women out there that they would, because of health reasons, maybe can't work. They would love to be able to work. Have any of you ever been so sick that you couldn't do your business and you wish you could go be doing a skincare class? Really, you guys? We get to share this product. We get to share this opportunity. If you will go out 72 hours, do something different with a plan, a price on your dream, a strategy of new faces, a way to track it. And then know that when God plants a dream in your heart, He's already resourced it. So those dreams that Karen was talking about, He's called all four of us to be legacy leaders that make sure that this company, that we raise up national sales directors to make sure this company stays founded on God, family, and career. That means for us to do that, you all have to become top directors and national sales directors. I hope that gives you confidence, because that means God's already picked out the 24 people for your unit. He's picked out the 14 people for your car, and He's picked out the 20 people for your national area. All you have to be willing to do is walk it out. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your retreat.
Terry, are you in the room, TJ? Okay, good. It's a privilege to introduce an offspring of Heather Carlson. Her name is Terry Janica. Her friends call her TJ. TJ has been in Mary Kay for 23 years. She has 75 quarters as a star consultant. She has earned the Queen's Court of Sales jewelry for 6 years. And she's earned 11 career cars in her 23 years. 11. That's a lot of cars. Terry's children today are 26, 23, and 21, which means 23 years ago they were 3, a newborn, and another one came later. 2 kids when she joined. Her husband, Jeff, she's been married to for 29 years. And TJ just retired after teaching school for 30 years. She earned 11 cars while teaching 30 years. I cannot imagine what her career is going to look like for the next 30 years without that teaching in the mix. Would you please welcome a legacy leader of 23 years, Terry Janica.
Thank you. Oh gosh, you know what? I remember when I was brand new, and I so appreciate when you think about it, the years that we have in something that we love to do. But 23 years ago, it wasn't until I had children that I started to really appreciate my parents. Not to say I didn't appreciate what they did, but I didn't understand what they did. The working all day and lunches and school, and we'd come home, my dad come home from work on Friday, we'd go up north and we'd spend all weekend, come home at midnight and do all these things. And then college, when my kids start driving or going to college, and I was fortunate enough for, I have there's 6 children in our family, and I didn't have to pay for school. And my brother or my husband, when they talk about paying school loans or debts or things like that, it's not that I wasn't appreciative. I just didn't know I should have been that appreciative. And when I think about the Mary Kay legacy, I fall into that same appreciation. I remember and appreciate every day my friend who I taught with, who introduced me to Mary Kay. She needed to have some women around the table and have facials, practice her facials. So I agreed to do that. Now, I had never, I was teaching maybe 7 or 8 years at that point, and I didn't wear makeup. If I went out at night, I had blue eyeshadow and Blistex on. That was it, and I thought I looked great. It scares me to look at my wedding pictures because I thought, oh, if I only had known back then. But I appreciate her so much. Introduced me to Mary Kay, gave me a facial. I loved the product, started using it. My friends actually were asking me what I was using, and I would give them her number, and she'd always say, you should do this. You've sent me so much business. And I was very happy to send it to her because I wasn't looking for a business. I loved my life. I was teaching. My husband taught. He coached basketball. I had the kids. I really felt full. And I went to several events, and I just loved to learn about the product. I loved to learn about the skincare. I loved to learn about the glamour. And I specifically remember walking out of the doorstep of Heather Carlson's and saying, gosh, this is really great. This is really a nice thing. And Patty started calling me about it, and I signed the agreement in April of '97. In love with the skincare. In 87. You're right. Time flies. 1987. Well, Patty was an art teacher, and back in the day, you put water on these palettes and you colored your makeup on. And I thought, that's easy for her to do. I'm not even going to try to challenge that, to address that challenge. But I did sign my agreement, not for a business, but for a deal. Because I could buy my products at half price. And at this point, my mother was using the product, my sisters were using the product, so I thought, why not? Why not? And it wasn't until I didn't go to trainings or anything like that because I wasn't looking for a business. But I did need a new car, or I wanted a new car. And I told my husband, I said, I think the company gives new cars away, or I think they give cars away. So I called Heather, asked her how they did that. And I did it only because I thought, there is no way that you have to do that and you get a car. You earn a car. I just really wanted to prove her wrong, but knew I could do it. If you taught me, I could do it. So 4 months later, I won my first car. I was, of course, teaching school, and really, she taught, I listened, I could do that. But I pulled up, and I'll never forget this. She had a huge pink bow on the trunk, and I did not take it off. And I drove to work the next day, and I pulled in, and I went in to sign in the office, and I saw these people looking out the window. The secretary never went. They're going, I don't know, I think someone must have had a baby. And I had to explain to them that was my new free car. So I was really excited about that, and I am excited and appreciative of the 11 cars that have followed. I appreciate and I remember every day to be thankful for Heather Carlson. We all are. Who knew back when she told me that I dressed up for work? I was a tomboy. I loved doing all sorts of things. I hunt. I did all that. But I dressed up for work. I did dress up for work. But after work, I didn't want to do that. And she says, you need to wear a dress or skirt. And I'm thinking, need to wear this. But I just, one memory is I remember getting off a plane one time. There was another home business and they're gathering, and I got it. I got it. Never again did I question the professionalism and the skirt and the suit that again. So, but she has taught me, she's encouraged me, she's so knowledgeable about so many things. She creates a vision where I silently sat back and listened and visualized all these things that she had dreams. I mean, that's why she's the dream team, I guess. But she really creates such a vision. And I thought to myself, maybe I could do this. And she's so smart because she included me in all her trainings. I mean, I had a part to do in the training. And so she really created a directorship for me. And I was working full-time, and I was doing catering, and, everyone's busy. I'm not saying I was any busier than anyone else, but I did have other obligations there too. And I kept thinking to myself, how could I really do this? How could I do this? Well, I won my car, but I consistently held 2 appointments a week, 2 classes a week, every week, 2 classes a week. And I earned my car and kept the car. But I thought, how could I do more? How could I do more? So we sat, she talked, we created a vision. I thought, okay, it was in September then that I said, okay, I think I can do this. And at that time, you needed 4 months to become a director. So at the end of December, I started wondering, can I really do this? Am I really the person to do this? And with her encouragement and the support of the other women in your team, it's funny how you let other people believe in you. That's when I first understood that whole let other people believe in you until you believe in yourself. And that was in December of 1990, because at the end of December we did debut as a brand new unit. And I'm so appreciative, and I remember that, and I thank you for that, Heather, because I would not be here today unless she encouraged me and gave me that gentle nudge, because I didn't see it for myself. So thank you so much. I remember another thing with Heather is we were, those of you, I met Mary Kay, and I saw Mary Kay, and I didn't appreciate that really until she was gone. And so many women, when they say, how many of you have met Mary Kay? And a quarter of the room or a quarter of the arena. And I think, wow. Well, we were at lunch in 1990, that first seminar afterwards, and and it was a smaller lunch. And Heather said, go up and meet her. And I'm going, oh, all those, women are standing there. I don't want to. Next thing you know, Mary Kay goes, because she sees her, trying to move me up there. And so she has me get up on the stage behind her, and we took a picture, and I have that picture today, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so appreciative of her, again, gently nudging me to go get my picture taken with her, because I was kind of feeling like a groupie, there. But I am so appreciative of the lessons learned and everything that I've learned from her and Mary Kay and the Mary Kay family. I remember and appreciate our national sales directors. And Debbie Moore, I met her when I signed as a beauty consultant. I went to her home in Hudson. Now, I grew up in Michigan. My parents moved to Hudson, Ohio, when I was a senior in high school in the spring. So when I graduated, I came here just in the summer. And so I didn't really know anyone, and never thought I'd be in Ohio, never thought I'd leave Michigan. But I ended up, when I graduated from college, got a job here in Ohio. And so Debbie was very easy for me to relate to because she was a teacher. But I remember those 100 names challenge that we had back then, and it does amaze you how many people you really do know. I remember those Sandusky retreats when we'd sit on the floor in an empty room and just talk and share, and we don't need linen tablecloths and chairs and beautiful centerpieces. We learned so much just in that room with Kathy and Debbie and some of our sales directors that we have now. I remember when she was crowned queen at seminar. I love the national, when families are included. I love the whole family orientation of Mary Kay. Kathy Halou, she amazes me with her energy and her leadership and her life then and now. Family, how family's so important, because family's important to me as well. Their national sales debut, if you were there, it was such a treat and so funny and so incredible with how many people were there and the sharing, and it was just a memory that I can envision where we sat, how, just the laughter and fun that was there. And I remember the Sheraton, our seminar, when we were at seminar, we didn't stay at the Hyatt, we stayed at the Sheraton. And we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have coffee pots in our room, but when we left the Sheraton, I thought, oh my gosh, because one of the things I loved there, and that was early on, is that you could call for a wake-up call, and 15 minutes later, you'd have a pot of coffee and the USA Today. When I go to Dallas and we're on the shuttle and we go by that Sheraton, that's the visual that I have. I loved it. No coffee pots there. I remember when I debuted my very first Offspring director, and I so appreciate Patty Radford. I have learned so much from her and learned to appreciate life. And I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but we were sitting back in the Hala. I've never been in such a remote, beautiful area. Sitting back on the back porch and just looking forever into the hills. It was beautiful, and she has her daughters. It was just nice traveling there and meeting her family and her friends and seeing the growth. What she said is, do you think she had an in-home daycare, do you think I could ever just give this up and become a director? Well, I had to share that same vision that Heather created for me. And yes, absolutely, you can, and she did, and there she is, top 20 in sales for how many years? A lot, forever, as long as she's been here, because she has a mission and it's non-negotiable. It's gotten done. Dawn Sweeney, wow. You know what? I think she is the keeping it real originator there. She has always kept it real for me. There's no sugarcoating anything. I like that style. I like, this is the way it is. You go with me, you run with me, or you make your own choices. But I am in awe at her training and her knowledge and her passion and her faith now. I mean, not now, but over the years, I see it. I feel it. I am learning from it. It's refreshing. I remember and appreciate the Mary Kay philosophy of your faith first, your family second, your career third, because when I started working, it was job, job, job. I had a work ethic there that I learned that you just work. You went to work. And when my son was sick for the very first time, and I'll never forget this, I remember thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, because I'm thinking I have to go to work. What am I going to do? So that really was something that I learned over time, and I think has bettered me in life, really. My Mary Kay girlfriends, gosh, I so appreciate. I remember that trip a little bit differently. Not only did she almost run over those poor children in the crossing guard, but since we weren't securely buckled in, and of course we had our coffee, she sees the safety guard almost as she's hitting them. He's like this. She slams on the brakes, and two of us, which aren't in the seat, I'm just leaning over, I'm sitting like this with my arms on the front seat, just going like this. She slams on the brake, and our coffees go to the front, and we are laughing. Imagine that. We are laughing. We should have been mortified. That was funny. Lots of stories. But you know what? I didn't know, and really, I didn't. We talk about Plan Bs. Who knew? I did not know. I did just retire from teaching, and I loved my job. I didn't want to quit. I loved what I was doing, but 30 years I thought was enough. I always thought I'd work 30 years. I didn't realize when I hear so many people retire and they're not sure what they want to do, or they go back to work, teaching or subbing. I don't know why that is, but I had this Plan B that I didn't even know I had. And so it's just fabulous to transition to that. And yes, I'm ready for the next 30 years. So thank you, Mary Kay, and I do have a very grateful heart to not only our national sales directors, their husbands, my sister directors, and my Mary Kay girlfriends, but everyone in this room. So thank you very much.